this is James, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook for the week starting June the 25th, 2018. This week I wanted to work with the Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing cards again as a way of saying thank you to those of you who have been expressing interest in seeing me work more with the Gypsy Witch cards, and for those of you who have been liking and commenting on the videos I've been posting up to this point with the deck. I was very excited to see that some of you have taken the leap and purchased your own decks and that you're working with them. So I'm very excited to hear that, and I'm also very excited about seeing how your particular reading style with the deck develops and unfolds. So again, we're working with the Gypsy Witch fortune-telling playing cards, and they are published by US Game Systems Incorporated. So I have the deck on hand. I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards, and as I shuffle the cards, I'm focusing on my usual intention and question for these weekly general readings, and that is, what do we need to know for the week ahead? Now I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards my other way. Do that a few times. I'm feeling one more time will be good. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards. And fan the deck out. All right, and now I'm going to pick 5 cards from the fan that are getting my attention. I like to work with 5 cards when I read with this deck. 3, 4, and card number 5 is here. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and take the remainder of the deck up, and we'll put that to one side. And now I have the 5 cards face down in front of me, and I'm going to start this week with the middle card. For me, the middle card represents the central issue, something we're being asked to focus on for the week ahead, or something that could represent the heart of the matter if we go with the idea that the cards are going to be unfolding a story this week. So taking a look at that card, we have, oh, this is interesting. Okay, so here we have the 7 of Hearts and the Stork. So when I work with the Gypsy Witch cards, I always read the playing card insert first because it seems to be so prominent on the card. So the 7 of Hearts is a card that can come up when we may be feeling that we want to take another chance on something. This is a card about second chances. It could also be about something coming around, because I hear in my head an old Shalimar song. I said Shalimar, so those of you who know disco music, and like this is like late 70s, early 80s, there was a group called Shalimar, and they had a song called The Second Time Around. That's my song for the 7 of Hearts. So this is a week where this is a time where maybe either we are extending a second chance to somebody else, we're receiving a second chance from someone else, or something is coming around again for the second time. Another aspect of the 7 of Hearts is that this is a card that can be about surprises, and usually the 7 of Hearts suggests a pleasant surprise. So there is something that maybe is a surprising nature. It could be, again, hearts being about feelings, emotions, and relationships. Could be saying to you like it's on that kind of wavelength or on that level or in that area of life. The only other thing that I want to say about the 7 of Hearts is that for some people, this could be a week where we take a look at healing, because the Suit of Hearts for me represents healing, and the 7 of Hearts in particular is a spiritual healing card. So one or two possibilities that somebody is doing some spiritual healing work, and they could be seeing a spiritual healing practitioner, or that they are working on their own spiritual healing business or service or something of that nature. So those are possibilities with the 7 of Hearts. Now the Stork, and it's very interesting because we had the Stork in last week's Lenormand reading, and we have it repeating here. So I want to bring that reading into this week's reading by saying, if you were a person who focused on creating some kind of change or improving a situation, that may be what the Stork is showing up again. Or that you may be seeing some improvement as a result of some changes that you've made, or that we're being urged again, for those of us who maybe bypass that message, that this is a time to focus on creating positive changes in our life and seeking some kind of improvement or creating some kind of improvement. The only other thing I will say about the stork is that somebody may literally be focusing their energy, their attention, and their time on moving, because the stork is a card of migration. It's a migrating bird. So for me, this can represent a move or a relocation. So those are my meanings for the Seven of Hearts and stork. And so now let's take a look at surrounding cards, because they're going to offer us more information about this particular card. So let's start with the card on the far left and seeing how this story this week opens up. Okay, so I had a feeling this card was going to show up. So here we have the Four of Diamonds and the dog card. So the first thing I want to say, because when I sometimes see a card or get a feeling that a card is going to show up, I'm usually prompted to offer a message with that. So this is the message that I got when I saw the card. So the Four of Diamonds is a card that for me can represent conserving something or preserving something, right? Because it's usually a card that can represent storing something. So something being stored or something being contained. But for me, when I saw this particular card, I got the gist that we're talking about preserving something or conserving something. So with that, the dog is a symbol that can represent a friend or friendship, a partner or partnership. So there is a need to kind of maybe put some attention, some energy into, diamonds being about energy, so energy into either preserving a friendship or preserving a partnership. And that would make sense going back to the center card with the Seven of Hearts, talking about second chances or something coming back around for the second time, right? So there is that. So, but it may involve this idea of wanting to preserve a friendship or a partnership, right? There may have been some issue around trust, because the dog is a card of trust and being trustworthy. So it's making me feel, if that's the case, if we're trying to preserve something, if we're trying to give someone a second chance or we're being extended a second chance, it may have to do with either trust and being trustworthy, like I said already, or this idea about, you know, being helpful, being supportive, or even being loyal, because those are all aspects of dog that I'm seeing. And that would be maybe where the change or the improvement either has been made if we carry it over from last week, or that we are needing to focus on creating change around or improving something. But this week it's making me feel, with this card starting off the line, for some of us we may be wanting to put some energy into a particular friendship or partnership with the idea of wanting to preserve it, right? So there is that. Now I'm going to look at the middle card in between dog and stork, so let's see what's there. This is interesting. So this is the week of the animals, because now we have here the Eight of Hearts and the cat. So the Eight of Hearts is a card for me that can show up when, in particular, the friendship or the partnership, it may involve either a very good friend or a loved one, because the Eight of Hearts for me in terms of people can represent a very good friend or a loved one. This card also can come up if we talk about this idea of wanting to preserve a friendship or preserve a relationship. It's because there is some sort of mutual love and admiration within that relationship, because the Eight of Hearts for me represents mutual love and admiration. The other thing here with the Eight of Hearts, and this may come again with this idea of wanting to preserve a friendship or a partnership, is because this card, the Eight of Hearts, can represent this idea about watching over something or wanting to protect something, right? So it could be, if there is an issue around trust that we're needing to kind of work through, then it could be, as a reason being was the party involved was trying to protect someone from something, because I'm feeling like, here's the scenario that I'm seeing in my head, and most people may understand this. So if you didn't know this, I'm sure I've said it in the past, I love watching soap operas, okay? So sometimes in a soap opera, what happens is a person conceals something, and they do it with the idea that they're protecting the other person from whatever that discovery might do to them on an emotional level. So I'm seeing a scenario like that where somebody may have done something with the idea that they wanted to protect the other person, and it didn't work out that well. And so now there's an idea or a question about trust and loyalty that now we're working through or trying to work through, and that may be this idea of what needs to change or what needs to improve or what we are giving a second chance to, right? So it's like as a result of that kind of scenario, somebody has been asked for a second chance, right? That kind of thing. So I'm seeing that scenario played out in my head. So that may be the case for someone in particular or more than one person if it happens to resonate with a number of people. So there is that to consider. So the reason why I said we're going with the animals this week is because the cat, we had the dog, we had the cat, and we had the stork. So there's something about that. So since I'm saying that, I just want to honor this. For some people, because the suit of hearts, we have 2 cards from the suit of hearts. The suit of hearts can represent this idea about working with one's intuition, and going further with that, then the animals can represent our animal instincts on a symbolic level. If we go with the idea that man is also part of the animal kingdom, and I had just said this earlier to a client during a reading, so it's coming up again. So for some people in particular, this may be a week where you're being asked to be led or guided by your intuition. And if that's too woo-woo, the word intuition for you, then you're being asked to just trust your instincts, right? So there is that. Now the cat in particular, I've talked about this before, about my comparison between a dog and a cat in terms of being a dog lover, right? But the cat in particular can represent this idea about independence, right? So there is something about, maybe taking a time out, or, somebody's wanting to declare they're independent, and that could be within the context of, again, a friendship or a partnership, right? And wanting the other person to kind of, the idea of like, if there is a sense of mutual love there, if there is a sense of mutual admiration as this person is seeking their sense of independence, then that is to be honored. So I'm seeing that as a possibility here with that. The only other thing that I want to say with the cat card, because this is an expression that's coming to me, about this idea about cats always landing on their feet. So for someone in particular, you may be going through a situation with a friend, with a partner that I've already talked about, and I want you to know with the cat card, the message is that you will somehow land on your feet. So that is how I'm looking at the 8 of Hearts and the cat. So now I'm going to take a look at what's on the other side of Stork, because the Storks are actually facing this particular card. So let's take a look at that. So here we have the 9 of Spades and the Rose. So if you're no stranger to me using the Gypsy Witch cards, you may remember that this particular card showed up in a previous reading. And so I talked about the 9 of Spades in particular being a challenging card because spades represent problems, challenges, difficulties, blocks, and hurdles, right? So there is that. So there is something about working through some kind of problem, and the 9 of Spades in particular can represent loss or disappointment. So again, it could just be a matter of someone working through their sense of disappointment within the context or confines of a friendship or a partnership. And now the rose is a symbol for me that can represent something that's beautiful, but I always point this out with this card in particular because there are thorns on the stem of the rose, and so it's about handling a prickly issue or a thorny issue. So there is that. So it's just a matter of that. And here's the thing. So if we're talking about a friendship and we're talking about a partnership possibly, then instead of looking at what are the thorns, the metaphorical thorns in the relationship or the friendship, the rose is asking you not to forget what is beautiful about that friendship or what is beautiful about that partnership, right? Because there is some beauty in it, and this card, one of its meanings is about beauty. And so it's about acknowledging what was beautiful about that particular friendship or friend or partnership and partner, because that's probably still there. You may be just looking at whatever it is that you believe you've lost, or you're mired in your feelings of disappointment that you may be overlooking at. So the rose card is asking you not to forget what's beautiful about that. And now going to the last card. Okay, and so now, very interesting. So we had diamond card, 2 hearts cards, and now we're ending the reading with 2 spades cards. So again, this could be an issue, or a week rather, where we're working through issues, we're working through problems, we're working through some sort of difficulties, right? And it could be saying to, like, whatever the difficulty is, it might not be totally resolved this week because we have a spade card as the last card. So we have the 8 of spades. I just realized I didn't say what the card was. We have the 8 of spades and we have the mountain. So the 8 of spades is a card for me that can represent investigating something further. This is my investigation card because the 8 is a number that can represent the eye. So it's a matter of how are we looking into the situation, how are we seeing the situation. There may be something about that might need to change. It might be difficult to see the situation a certain way, and so we can't get past that. So we're maybe still needing to work that out. But for me, the first thing with this card is about investigations. And so with that, it could be about analyzing something, researching something, you know, looking further into a situation. And that would be probably because we need information, we need answers, those kinds of things. We only do some investigation where we're trying to seek some kind of answer or solution or uncover something that we can't see in the moment, right? So there is that to consider. And sometimes too, if we go with the idea that we have the 8 of hearts and the 8 of spades, so we have 2 8s here. And so for me, when I see 2 8s in a line of cards, there's a possibility of a power struggle going on within maybe a relationship or partnership. So it's about working out, you know, potential power struggles or power issues. Or again, going back to the cat card and what I talked about, this idea about somebody landing on their feet or somebody seeking some kind of independence. It could be a matter of that's a way of exercising one's personal power. So there may be something having to do with personal power or power issues or power struggles or a control for power this week within a particular friendship or relationship. And how do we balance that? Because that's the other thing about 8. 8 is a number of balance. But the reason why I'm harping on the 2 8s is because they're showing the possibility here of an unhealthy relationship. And that's where we need to create the balance in. How do we move into a greater space where there's balance? There is the sense of mutual love and admiration and appreciation where I talked about with the 8 of hearts. How can we get into that space? And usually that comes as a result of everyone in that relationship or partnership being acknowledged, right? Being honored, right? That kind of thing. So that's what I'm seeing with the 8 of spades. Now the mountain. The mountain as a symbol can represent challenge. It literally can represent a challenge. So there's a challenge, a block, some kind of obstacle. It can also represent something that's creating a setback or some kind of delay or even something being postponed, right? So this could be a matter of where a couple of things, if we're talking about the friendship, relationship, partnership that's been revealed with the dog, then this card could represent as a result of whatever the challenges are, there may be a sense of becoming distant or remote, because that's how I would look at the mountains on an emotional level. Somebody's being distant and remote, right? So there is that to consider. The other thing with the mountain card is that it can come up when we are, you know, experiencing something in which the challenge is not insurmountable, which means that we can climb, because I always think about mountain climbing with this card. And so it's like we can get over the challenge or we can get around the obstacle, but it may take some time, right? And so the idea here, if I go with the idea about climbing, then that would imply that there is some effort. Would you be willing to make the effort? You know, the idea of mountain climbing could involve this idea about taking steps. So what's the one step? This is the life coaching in me coming out. So what's the one step that you would be willing to take if you are wanting to work on preserving a particular friendship, partnership, companionship? What would be the one step you'd be willing to take in order to start yourself on the process or on the path of overcoming that challenge, that obstacle, right? So that's how I'm seeing that with the 8 of spades and the mountain. So that is how I will end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week despite whatever challenges come your way. Take care.